A new development has emerged in the prolonged confrontation between Ukraine and Russia, as critical military aviation bases in the country have come under action. Olenya and Engels in the Saratov region and Diaghilevo in the Ryazan region were targeted by coordinated attacks. Additionally, the Arctic region was attacked, indicating a dramatic shift in the ongoing conflict. The attack on the Olenya airbase exemplifies this novel strategy. As a result, Ukraine has tactically extended the reach of the fight, adding the far northern territories of Russia to the battlefield. This operation sends a powerful message to Russia's military presence in the Arctic, demonstrating that Ukraine's defensive capabilities extend beyond conventional fronts. Let's take a closer look at these key events. In a dramatic escalation, Russia has extended its ongoing battle with Ukraine to the Arctic zone. A drone struck a bomber stationed at the Olenya airbase on the Kolan Peninsula. This strategic post is located in the Arctic Circle, about 1,800 kilometers north of Russia's border with Ukraine. This episode marked the first assault in the zone since the battle began in February 2022. According to reports from Ukrainian media, one of the Tupolev Tu-22 M3 long-range supersonic bombers and the missile carrier aircraft at the Olenya airfield were damaged. This aircraft is well known for its capability to launch powerful weapons, including heavy AS-4 anti-ship missiles and KHM-22 cruise missiles. This operation involves taking the fight to Russia's northern borders, aiming to put pressure on Russia's critical air power. Following the attack, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a statement highlighting the gravity of the incident. The president underscored the need to destroy Russian airbases and prevent the loss of Russian military aircraft to protect Ukrainian lives. He praised and thanked Ukrainian fighters for their bravery and dedication. Russian authorities, on the other hand, remained silent and tried to conceal the assault and its consequences. What information do we have about the Russian military airbase at Olenya? And how did Ukraine carry out the attack on this critical base? The recent drone attack on the Olenya airfield has led to numerous strategic investigations. The details about the drone's actual launch site are unclear at this time. Assuming the drone departed from Ukraine, it would have traveled about 1,800 kilometers through central Russia on autopilot. It is likely that the drone was launched from within Russia, specifically from large wilderness regions like Arkhangelsk, Voskresensk, and sparsely populated areas, or Karelia, south of the Murmansk region. The Olenya airfield is strategically located on the Kola Peninsula near the city of Olenogorsk, a hub of iron ore production activities. This region has significant strategic relevance, not only for military activities, but also for the extraction of valuable natural resources. Vysoky, also known as Olenogorsk 8, is a closed military community that houses the crew, service personnel, and their families. The region clearly functions as a military operations center and a gathering place for social events. Bolshoi Ramozero, located north of Vysoky, is an important Russian nuclear warhead storage facility. This location is crucial for Russia's nuclear capability and a key component of the country's defensive structure. The Olenya runway is located in European Russia, above the Arctic Circle, and is a considerable distance from the border with Ukraine. This site is ideal for Russia's strategic aviation operations. This station is frequently used for cruise missile attacks against civilian targets in Ukraine. The Tu-95 MS bombers, which bombed a children's hospital in Kyiv last month, also flew from this location. Last spring, the Russian Strategic Air Force transferred some long-range Tu-95 MS and Tu-160 bombers to Olenya in response to a Ukrainian drone attack on the Engels airbase in the Saratov region. This action increased Olenya's strategic relevance, allowing Russia to expand its military presence to multiple geographical areas. Olenya previously housed a fleet of supersonic Tu-22 M3 bombers. The existence of this fleet significantly enhances the operational capacity and speed of the Russian Air Force. These aircraft have great speed and extended operational range, allowing them to cover large areas and launch strong attacks on important targets. However, Ukraine's attack dealt a severe blow to Russian capabilities, emphasizing the lack of a safe haven for the Russians. Given the conditions, the assault on Olenya Airport has the potential to significantly affect Russia's conventional and nuclear capabilities. Nevertheless, this devastating attack sparked the curiosity of military analysts. According to Associate Professor Lars Peder Hage of the Norwegian Air Force Academy, the attack was expected. Hage told the Barents Observer that the attack on Olenya was inevitable despite its distance from the Ukrainian border. According to Hage's study, Olenya has great strategic value and is an integral part of Ukraine's precisely planned operation. Additionally, frequent GPS interference in the vicinity complicates long-distance operations. The successful execution of the attack is considered a great feat, both technologically and operationally. Hage's words underscore the importance of Olenya in Russia's Arctic defense policy, as well as the potential ramifications for regional security if Ukraine attacks this facility. Olenya's strategic location is crucial for strengthening Russia's influence in the Arctic and expanding military operations. Moreover, the strategic location of the base and its proximity to the borders of neighboring NATO countries, such as Norway and Finland, amplify the global political implications of the attacks. As previously reported, Ukraine launched simultaneous attacks on airbases. The recent attacks on the Engels and Dyagilevo airbases in the Ryazan area mark a significant shift in Ukraine's strategy, as well as a critical tactical development that has the potential to change the course of the war. Russia's strategic Tu-95 MS bombers are stationed at the Engels airbase and are routinely used to launch cruise missile attacks against civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. The base is located in the Saratov region and is a critical component in offensive operations against Ukraine. The Dyagilevo airfield, located in the Ryazan region, is primarily used for testing and training. The facility houses a wide range of aircraft, including the Tu-95MS, Tu-22M3, Tu-134VL, and Ilyushin IL-78, as well as a maintenance facility. Social media users reported the explosions, while the Russian Ministry of Defense acknowledged the effective interception of drones in Ryazan and several other districts near the Ukrainian border. This clearly illustrates the severity of the attacks and their lasting impact. In a statement, Hachor revealed that the 3 helicopters were used in operations against Ukraine, despite attempts by Russian authorities to conceal this knowledge from the local community. These attacks have significantly damaged Russia's military capability and could potentially change the trajectory of the war. Specifically, recent airstrikes in Samara and Tomilino, near Moscow, have had a significant impact on the operational capacity of the Russian Air Force. The Ukrainian military has recorded the loss of 326 helicopters since Russia's large-scale offensive began, highlighting the strategic importance of these attacks. However, Ukraine's attacks on Russia's strategic military airbases could have a significant influence on the Kremlin's political prestige, as well as the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. These attacks expose serious vulnerabilities in Russia's defense systems, casting doubt on the military power and strategic abilities of the Putin administration. This could severely alter Russia's position, both domestically and internationally. In light of recent events, Russia may reconsider its combat tactics and strategies, taking into account Ukraine's potential to launch such attacks. As a military analyst, it is clear that Russia's military presence in the Arctic is crucial for maintaining its second strike nuclear capability. Attacks in those locations could complicate Russia's defense strategies and increase tensions with NATO. From a budgetary standpoint, these attacks could force Russia to increase its defense budget, adding further strain to an economy already struggling with sanctions. A prolonged confrontation could continue to deplete Russia's economic and military capabilities. These attacks represent a tremendous moral and strategic victory for Ukraine. They indicate the astonishing increase in Ukraine's defensive capabilities, as well as its ability to advance further into Russian territory. This could help Ukraine garner additional support and assistance from its foreign allies. On a broader scale, Ukraine's strategic actions have the potential to substantially alter the course of the war, with far-reaching consequences for regional and global security in the future. Despite the fighting extending to the farthest reaches of Russia, Vladimir Putin remains confident in his ability to defeat Ukraine. The annual NATO meeting in early July resulted in a series of encouraging words and concrete measures in support of Ukraine. Unfortunately, the much-anticipated conference in Washington, D.C., did not yield the expected results to convince Vladimir Putin to end his occupation. Before the NATO summit, it was clear there would be no substantive debate about inviting Ukraine to join the organization. Instead, the emphasis was on strengthening existing collaboration and allowing alliance leaders to remain flexible in addressing the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. After the summit, reports highlighted the official statement emphasizing Ukraine's commitment to potential NATO membership. However, the wording of the joint statement was not seen by everyone as a decisive moment. Indeed, some critics viewed NATO's recent confirmation of its open-door policy towards Ukraine as proof that the alliance was still far from reaching an agreement on when Ukraine might potentially become a member. The summit was not entirely disappointing. Several governments committed to providing Ukraine with more air defense systems, addressing one of Kyiv's most urgent needs: protecting the country against Russian bombardments. There were exciting updates about the expected arrival of the first F-16 fighter jets in Ukraine, as well as measures to improve coordination for arms transfers and create greater cooperation. NATO nations agreed in Washington to provide Ukraine with substantial military funding totaling 40 billion euros for the coming year. While this figure is impressive, it is not enough to guarantee Ukraine's victory. This is a recurring problem. Despite the significant GDP disparity between the West and Russia, Western policymakers have yet to use their financial resources to give Ukraine a decisive military advantage. It is worth noting that, despite its small size, the Russian economy today surpasses the entire Western world in terms of artillery shell production. The meager advances achieved at the NATO summit illustrate the delayed and inadequate response that has hampered Western efforts since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion. This hesitation is unlikely to lead to a change of opinion in Moscow. Instead, it is more likely that Russian policymakers will perceive the current Western stance as a guarantee that the war is proceeding as planned. In contrast to Western perceptions, the Kremlin has a clear and cohesive strategy for future Russian victories in Ukraine. This includes the constant deterioration of Ukrainian resistance on the battlefield as a result of the high-intensity conflict maintained on the front lines of the war, as well as widespread bombing of civilian infrastructure and population centers across the country. Along with these military actions, Russia will continue to conduct a variety of influence operations aimed at eroding morale and fostering discontent among the Ukrainian and Western public. As a result, Ukraine will become increasingly isolated and weakened, ultimately leading to collapse and submission. Russian officials believe Ukraine will struggle to gain support from its Western friends. They are becoming more optimistic as evidence emerges that many in the West view the occupation as a futile endeavor. Putin is increasingly confident that the West will eventually lose interest in the conflict and anticipates that Western leaders will pressure Kyiv to accept a negotiated settlement on Russia's terms. Since the occupation began 2.5 years ago, Western leaders have lacked the resolve necessary to force Putin to reconsider his expectations. Instead of providing Kyiv with advanced military equipment, Ukraine's partners have gradually reduced military assistance and imposed arbitrary restrictions on the use of Western weapons. Western messaging has also been insufficient. Rather than committing openly to supporting Ukraine's victory, Western leaders have emphasized the importance of preventing Ukraine's collapse and standing by its side for as long as necessary. This terminology does not reflect the power that Putin understands. In the face of continued Western hesitation, the Russian leader is escalating his demands. In his most recent plan, Putin urged Ukraine to cede all territories currently occupied by Russia, as well as a significant portion of additional territory not currently under Kremlin control. There is no doubt that he is fully committed to achieving the complete surrender and subjugation of Ukraine. Putin is well aware that he cannot compete with the combined strength of the democratic world, but this does not deter him in the least. On the contrary, he believes that Russia will emerge victorious in Ukraine due to the ongoing fragility of the West. If the West fails to adequately employ its vast financial, military, and technical resources to provide decisive aid to Ukraine, his prophecy may come true. Meanwhile, major events are unfolding in Europe. The recent re-election of Ursula von der Leyen as President of the European Commission is an important step in European politics, especially given the current conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Von der Leyen, a former German defense minister, secured a landslide victory, suggesting a commitment to continue the current political direction of the EU. Throughout her tenure in government, she has maintained a firm stance on various issues, particularly the situation in Ukraine. The President of the European Commission holds several responsibilities and is of great importance. Firstly, the position involves overseeing the EU bureaucracy, which, despite its small size compared to other European institutions, wields significant legal influence over a wide range of European issues. Perhaps more importantly, the role of the President is to mediate conflicts between European countries. Understanding the complex decision-making processes of the EU is crucial, as they often require a unanimous or qualified majority vote. The EU's voting mechanism is a highly detailed and comprehensive procedure that reflects the complex dynamics and diverse interests of its member states. On issues requiring unanimity, each country, regardless of size, holds significant veto power. This can lead to prolonged negotiations and the need to identify common ground, as Malta's interests must be carefully balanced with those of Germany. However, the qualified majority voting method is based on considerations such as population size and economic strength. Similar to the U.S. Electoral College, it provides a more equitable approach to decision-making while giving smaller states some favor. Nonetheless, the complexities of the situation require expert and diplomatic handling, a role that falls to the President of the Commission. In her pre-election speech, von der Leyen outlined her main goals for the next term. Among the anticipated suggestions, such as boosting the Green New Deal and strengthening cyber defense capabilities, one concept stood out: the creation of a joint European air defense zone. This proposal marks a significant shift in EU policy and has the potential to alter the dynamic between the EU and NATO, the long-dominant actors in European affairs. The evolution of the European Union, from its roots as the coal and steel community to its current status, has been driven predominantly by the goal of economic unification. Despite various challenges and ongoing discussions, the EU has made significant progress towards building a cohesive trading bloc, a united market, and the unification of banking and financial rules. Indeed, the EU's achievements in these areas have surpassed the projections of many analysts 25 years ago, especially in light of the mid-2000s economic crisis. The NATO alliance has played a crucial role in ensuring European security, both during the Cold War and again in the face of potential Russian threats. In the 2000s and 2010s, NATO, particularly the United States and the United Kingdom, faced significant challenges. During this time, numerous European countries, especially Germany, downplayed their security concerns. Despite Russia's first invasion of Ukraine in 2014, some European countries, including Germany, considered significantly reducing military spending or abolishing their armed forces altogether. This complacency persisted, seemingly unshaken by the gravity of the circumstances. The scenario changed dramatically with Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Given the severity and scope of the battle, European nations were forced to reconsider their security objectives, resulting in a greater emphasis on defense capabilities and spending. In this context, von der Leyen's proposal for a unified European air defense domain makes sense. The importance of developing such a system is clear. The Ukraine war has demonstrated the terrifying vulnerability of key infrastructure to deadly missile and drone attacks. European authorities recognize the potential devastation caused by comparable attacks in their technologically advanced and infrastructure-dependent nations. An integrated air and missile defense system is essential to counter this danger. The projected European air defense area would likely include a vast network of radar systems, ground-to-air missile batteries, and interceptor aircraft. These components would be seamlessly integrated using an advanced command and control system. Such a system would need to be capable of recognizing, monitoring, and eliminating a wide range of aerial threats, including ballistic missiles and low-altitude drones. The technical obstacles to establishing such a system are significant, requiring substantial financial investment as well as unprecedented levels of cooperation and integration among European militaries. One of the most important challenges we will face is establishing flawless communication and cooperation between the various national systems. Several air defense systems are currently operational in European countries, notably the US Patriot missiles and the Franco-Italian SAMP-T system. Bringing these disparate systems together into one would require substantial technical expertise and the development of potentially novel interface technologies. Real-time data sharing and decision-making capabilities are crucial in the proposed air defense domain. Given the short flight times of modern missiles, particularly in the European theater, response times need to be measured in minutes or even seconds. This effort requires the development of cutting-edge artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to assist human operators in making split-second decisions. Building this air defense zone has the potential to stimulate innovation in various other areas of military technology. For instance, it could accelerate the development of next-generation missile interceptors, advanced radar systems, and new electronic warfare capabilities. This, in turn, could revitalize the European defense sector and reduce the continent's dependence on US military technology. What distinguishes von der Leyen's idea is her recommendation that it be an EU initiative rather than a NATO mission, adding an interesting twist to the issue. This suggests a shift in the traditional allocation of responsibilities between the two organizations, as well as a more proactive role for the EU in defense matters. The idea faces numerous challenges, including both technological and political elements. First, we must address the issue of resources. Previous attempts to develop European defense programs outside of NATO have failed due to insufficient funding and lack of political will. However, due to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, several European countries have significantly increased their defense budgets. This infusion of funds has the potential to support both NATO commitments and new EU defense efforts. Another major problem stems from the complex interactions between the EU and NATO. NATO includes several EU members, with some exceptions. It is worth mentioning that 4 EU countries, Malta, Ireland, Austria, and Cyprus, are not NATO members. Malta's security concerns are primarily focused on illegal immigration from Africa, while Ireland has generally taken a more passive approach to continental defense. However, Austria and Cyprus face more complicated situations. Austria can navigate this new defense landscape by maintaining neutrality and making strategic decisions based on electoral and historical contexts. Cyprus, on the other hand, presents a much more serious challenge. Cyprus, a smaller EU member state, has long-standing cultural and military tensions with Turkey, a significant EU trade partner, despite not being a member. Cyprus's veto power over EU decisions could complicate the establishment of a shared air defense zone, especially if there are concerns about potential benefits to Turkey. Cyprus's position in European affairs complicates matters. The last time Cyprus received international attention was during the financial crisis of the late 2000s. Although Cyprus received the smallest bailout compared to other European countries, its reputation as a money laundering hub made the bailout exceptionally controversial and complicated. This history highlights the potential complexities and controversies surrounding Cyprus's participation in any future European defense initiative. Thanks for tuning in.